Key details revealed. Porsche buying Red Bull. Is Porsche buying out Red Bull? After a couple of months of rumours and discussions, it seems like Porsche has finally decided to commit to Red Bull in a long-term relationship. But their partnership is far deeper and more thorough than everybody first anticipated. Let's dive into the key details regarding the Porsche and Red Bull deal. A document has surfaced on the internet regarding the Porsche and Red Bull deal, and this document shows that Porsche has committed to buying 50% of Red Bull technology. Notice how the name isn't Red Bull Racing, and this has caught many people wondering why Porsche is buying out the facilities that are used to produce Red Bull's cars. One simple answer to this question is that they want to commit long-term to the sport, and the deal is allegedly made for 10 years. Most likely, a buyout of Red Bull Racing, or 50% of the team, will follow these days. But the fact that Porsche decided to buy the factory used to produce the F1 car shows how devoted they are in their return to the sport. The document was released in Morocco, as their legislation says that any document that is proclaimed official needs to be published. But why Morocco? And what do they have to do with this stuff anyway? Well, since the competition is rough and, well, competitive, Porsche and Red Bull need to pass the green light from anti-cartel authorities around the world to ensure that there was nothing untoward in the companies joining up. This also needs to be done in the European Union, as well as in more than 20 countries outside of it. One of these countries is Morocco, which again has a law that makes applications mandatory for publication once approved. So what does this mean for Red Bull? The powertrains that they have used until now were powered by Honda and supported by them, as the team announced that 2021 would be the last year they directly provide an engine to the team. The Japanese team wanted to pull back from the sport totally in 2026, but the emergence of Porsche and Audi along the way, it seems like they'll rethink their decision. In a way, Red Bull was forced to look in another direction due to Honda and their plans to pull back from the sport. Although Honda will support Red Bull until 2026, when the engine freeze law will be lifted in F1, the Japanese team didn't see a future in this sport and will push to support Red Bull in conquering more titles until their final departure. This is why Red Bull built their own powertrains facilities, so that they won't depend solely on a manufacturer's engine. However, the team still needs a brand that will be willing to commit to building an F1 engine and other parts of the car, such as the chassis, to work in these facilities. This is why the deal is considered a win-win situation for both sides. Red Bull receives a team that will produce engines and other stuff that is used to build an F1 car, and Porsche receives a spot in the sport and doesn't have to invest in building powertrains on their own in order to develop engines and chassis. After all, Red Bull is an attractive market, and they are one of the most successful teams in the last 15 years of the sport. They started to dominate the sport in 2010 and won 4 straight championships until 2014, when the turbo hybrid era was introduced. Last year, they won the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen against the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. So it's definitely a team that's worth buying out. But people and the media were surprised by Porsche's decision to commit in this way. In the document that was published by Morocco's government, we've seen a sheer will and commitment from Porsche to be in this sport for a long time to come. This is one of the reasons why the VW Group was pushing for the 2026 rules to be as clear and concise as possible, and one of the mandatory stuff was the electrification of the cars to be bigger and the usage of fully sustained fuel. Since F1 is moving in this direction and has provided enough evidence that it plans to work this out, VW has given 2 of its most formidable branches approval to seek a place in the sport. Initially, it was thought that Porsche will supply just the engines to Red Bull and will also be a commercial partner, with the team being called Red Bull Porsche. Audi was the team that was related more frequently with a buyout, as McLaren, Williams, Aston Martin and Sauber were related to this German brand. We need to also elaborate on Red Bull's move to bring Porsche as their partner, and why it doesn't imply that the team is looking for a way out of the F1. They had a bad experience with Renault from 2014 onwards, when the engine started to fail constantly, and they were powerless in their efforts to fix it. They had to work with what they were given, as was the case with Honda in 2019, the first year that the duo have stricken a deal. With powertrains, the team will be able to put their own people and their own trained personnel into fixing and finding the reliability issues of the engines. Plus, the co-founder of Red Bull, Dietrich Mateschitz, is 78 years old, so it's clear that Red Bull needs to look at a new, younger generation when it comes to leading the sport. It doesn't make sense for the team to leave the competition after all the success they've had. I mean, they've beat a 7-time world champion, and they want to pull a Nico Rosberg and fall back when they are most successful? I don't think so. Plus, the partnership with Porsche was kind of forced on Red Bull by Honda. They indeed have the facilities for their powertrains, but they are worthless if there isn't a company that would put their resources there to develop an engine. After all, Red Bull's main branch produces energy drinks, so they need more experienced and popular names to work on their engines. This is why they brought Porsche, as the German brand won't have to build their facilities to produce engines and other components used to build an F1 car. In the deal, AlphaTauri isn't mentioned as a factory that will use Porsche's engines, but this will likely happen when Porsche will move forward with the buyout of Red Bull F1 Racing. The sister company of Red Bull has used the Honda engine as well since 2019, and both of these companies used different engines just once in the past when AlphaTauri was known as Scuderia Toro Rosso Ferrari. This was mostly because Red Bull's first engine manufacturer was Ferrari before their choice to go with Renault, but kept Ferrari in their sister company's cars. Apart from Porsche, Audi is also looking to make an entrance in the sport. One team that they are highly related to is Sauber, as the Swiss team has undergone multiple buyouts in its existence. Now the team uses the Ferrari engines and is under the commercial partnership with Alfa Romeo. This could change really soon, as according to reports, Audi is seeking to purchase 75% of Sauber for the 2026 season and beyond. Audi was also related to McLaren, Williams and Aston Martin, but these partnerships are highly unlikely to happen due to the nature of the teams and the environment that is currently present to them. McLaren's team boss, Zak Brown, publicly said that the team isn't available for a buyout, while Williams is likely to commit to Renault's engines as an addition to the plan to bring Oscar Piastri, Alpine's reserve driver, as a replacement for Nicholas Latifi. Aston Martin is, well, how do you say this, a really unstable and unreliable team, and likely Audi won't love working in that kind of environment. One major thing that is also inspiring Audi and Porsche to enter the sport is the budget cap. With restrictions on how much money you can spend, the innovation and the economy of the team will be placed at the top of the list. Therefore, a team would have to prove that they have the most reliable and powerful engine by spending as little money as possible on it. It's kind of a challenge for both of these brands, as they have to build themselves names in other parts of the racing sports, but are yet to compete in the most prestigious one. With that being said, it's up to us to wait and see what the 2026 season holds for us. The entrance of these teams is almost certain, and only time will tell if they'll be successful in it.